Okay, this is 19th lesson of the series. We are learning JavaScript, and we are learning JavaScript by examples. And what we are trying to do in this series, in this lesson, we are trying to create this grid. This is available on this website, and what it is that it has a grid that has a fixed number of rows and columns. The number of colored cells changes every time you refresh it. Okay, so the number of colored cells changes every time you refresh it, and the students can type in an answer 0.29 for example for this one, and when it goes to the next question the number of colored cells changes. So we at the moment we are focusing on this grid only, and this is what we learned last time. So this is a grid. If you refresh it, the number of rows and number of columns changes randomly. Okay, so we will change this. We will make a grid with fixed number of rows and fixed number of columns, and I will minimize this, and this is the application that we created last time. So I will right mouse click and open with my text editor, and we have text editor and the application side by side. I will save it as grid 5 because this is the 5th lesson on grid and 19th lesson altogether. So I will close this, and this is the new version of this and I'll open this, and we have our editor and the browser side by side. Okay, so the first thing first, we need to change this to fixed number of rows and fixed number of columns, and this is the part of the script that is creating a random number of rows and random number of columns. So we can just remove this, and I will say 10 rows and 10 columns. Okay, if I save it now and refresh it, I have a grid of 10 rows and 10 columns. Okay, now to make the code really simple, I don't even need this piece of code. So this constant is being used here. So what I can do, I can change this to rows, and the number of rows, because the number of rows and number of columns is fixed, so I can now remove this. Okay, so if I save it now, it should have no effect on the appearance of the grid. Now we want to change the color of the cells randomly. Okay, so to do that we have to learn how to change the color of the cells in the first place. To do that, I will remove this. Okay, this is the style that this color is being applied to the grid with the help of JavaScript. So I will remove this. If I save it now, the grid should have no color. Okay, so next thing I'll do, I will create a class. I'll call it green, and this is in the style tag, and I will apply a background color of light green. Okay, as simple as that. This style has not been applied as yet, so it will still make no effect on the appearance of the grid. So next thing we want to do, we want to create a few variables, and within this function I will say let. This is a new variable that I'm creating, and I'll give it a value of 0, assign it a value of 0, and I'll create another variable and I'll give it a value of 100, and I'll explain it later on what is being done. After we have created this table data cell, I will add another line of code. I will say current, which is this variable with an initial value of 0, is equal to current plus parse float 1.01, and this should have no effect as yet on the grid. And now I want to change the class So I'll create another constant. Class name is equal to, if this number is less than or equal to fill, which is 100, then apply a class of green, otherwise empty quotation, otherwise leave it empty with no class. And then the last thing, we have to append this td class name is equal to class name. All right, so if we haven't made any mistake, it should work now. Okay, so you can see that the 99 cells are colored and one is not colored. So if I change this number to 1.02 and if I save it, you have a different number of cells that are not colored. If I change it to 03, if I save it again, and a different number of cells is colored. Okay, so this was the idea behind the application changing the color randomly. Okay, so we have not changed the color randomly, the values are still fixed. So but I wanted to show you how to conditionally apply a class. Okay, so all it is, we have created two variables. This variable has a value of 0 and this value has a value of 100. So if we change this to maybe, for example, 50, the number of colored cells will change. If I save it and refresh it, you can see that the number of colored cells is changed. So I'll bring it back to 100. I just want to play with one variable in our next lesson, but what it is doing, it is saving this value under this variable called class name. If the value of current is less than or equal to fill, it will apply a class of green, background color light green. Okay, but if the number goes beyond 100, there is no class applied. So, and this number is changing according, so this loop is running every single time, so it's adding every time this loop runs, a number is added. And for the 99 instances, if I change it back to 1.01, if I save it, so 99 times out of 100 when the loop runs, the value is less than 100, so the color, this class is applied, which is green. For the 100th time, the value becomes more than fill, more than 100, so there's no class applied. So if I create a new class, for example, if I call it blue and background color light blue, and if I apply this class here blue, so what will happen, that this cell will become blue. Save it and refresh it, and the color has been changed to blue. So if I change it to this, for example, to maybe 52, save it, you have a different set of results. Okay, so that is how to change class conditionally, and in the next lesson we'll learn how to randomly change this instead of applying a fixed value here. So I hope you learned something today. Thank you very much.